Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. And today I'm going to share with you how I made this card using the Greatest Journey bundle. And the particular feature that makes this card a bit interesting is that we're going to learn how to create that lovely sky effect. Now, if during the course of this video you see anything that you'd love to add to your craft stash and you live in New Zealand, then you're more than welcome to shop with me. There's a link to my online store underneath this video in the description, and also through the social media contacts at the end of the video as well. So let's just see what we need to make this card. Obviously the Greatest Journey bundle is a start. In terms of what you need in terms of card supplies, there's a few little things, and I'll crack on and go through those now. So I've started with a basic black base. It's half of an A4 piece of paper, which is a standard card size for me. So it's 21 centimetres scored at 10.5 and it's 14.8 that way. Now, if you're not a metrics person, just use whatever is your standard card size and then just adjust as you normally would. So I've got my black base. I've got a mat of Orchid Oasis, and that is half a centimetre smaller, so 10 centimetres by 14.3, and I think in metrics that's roughly about 1/4 inch. And then I've got a piece of shimmery white cardstock, and that is half a centimetre smaller again, so that is 9.5 by 13.8, and that's what we're going to use for the front. On the inside, I've also got a mat the same size, 10 by 14.3, and a piece of basic white, which is 9.5, 13.8. But we don't need those yet, so we'll just pop those aside. So in addition to those major pieces of paper, you're going to need a little piece of white to do the sentiment on. Now, I've taken the first one I made, I used You Belong Among the Stars, because with that beautiful starry sky, that seemed to be a beautiful sentiment. This one I've done Mountains of Thanks. And I have used the Something Fancy bundle to die cut that out with. And I've used the smallest of these little shapes. The smallest of those little shapes to cut that with. Oops, we better pop that one back in so he doesn't get lost. You're also going to need some little scraps of Fresh Freesia and Orchid Oasis, and what I did with those is I've cut out a couple of little branches or little sprays of foliage, which are going to end up going around our sentiment. Now, they use from the Greatest Journey dies, that is that little die there. Okay, so you need just enough of a scrap to cut yourself a couple of each of those. And you obviously need some black to make the silhouette of the girl and the mountain top. So I used a piece of basic black, which was the same width as my piece of shimmery white, so 9.5, and I cut it about 8.5 centimetres tall. Then I took this die, which gives you an edge of mountain. So you can make it any shape you like. You could have a really slanted hilltop, but you see you need enough space to put the sentiment. So you need to work out roughly how much sentiment you need, and then you can play around with the angle that you want the hilltop to be. It can be steep, it can be more flat, as long as you've still got enough room to fit the sentiment in. And then you need the die that is the hiker, and because she will fit in there, and then you can just run them through the die and you will end up with a mountaintop piece, and you will end up with your little hiker. Okay, so that's pretty much all the stuff. Now, if you want to do this little effect, which is to add in the glow of her lamp, I'll show you how to do that. It's very easy. You just get yourself a little tiny scrap of Daffodil Delight, and you really only need a very, very tiny piece, enough of a piece to go in behind. So you just cut yourself a little piece. Let's hope that's the right size. Yep. Get rid of that little fuzzy bit on the corner that I managed to get. And then the easiest way I think to deal with those tiniest little pieces is to get yourself your mat, your silicone mat, just a little tap of glue because you don't need much. An old bit of sponge or something like that. Just dabble that onto the back of the lantern and then lift your piece on. Have a quick check that there's nothing hanging over the side, and you see there she is waiting for you when we're ready to add her in to the rest of it. Okay, so now we're going to start with the fun bit, which is the Starry Sky panel. We have got 3 colours happening today. We are going to use some Fresh Freesia, some Orchid Oasis and some Starry Sky. So we're going to start by adding in the Fresh Freesia. Now you don't have to start right at the bottom because we're going to have our mountain top come onto that. So we'll just start with adding in some Fresh Freesia. Okay, now we're going to add in some Orchid Oasis. And it doesn't matter if we're a bit rough because the night sky is not completely flat. So we'll just give it some grunt. And we will add in even a little bit of Starry Sky at the back, oh sorry, at the top. Now, it doesn't matter that it looks a little bit like a dog's breakfast. Just looking at it, I'm going to add in just a wee touch. Just a wee touch of polished pink. And I'm going to go over that line a little bit. Okay. Now, you'll know that when you are dealing with sort of inky, spongy type backgrounds, you're never going to get 2 that turn out the same. And that doesn't matter, that's part of the fun. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to spritz a little bit of water onto it. Now that's one of the reasons that I use shimmery white cardstock. Shimmery white cardstock because firstly it's got that underlying starry shimmer, but secondly it does give you the opportunity to add a little bit of water. Now you want to be careful when you spritz on the water. I'm not going to spritz it hard on. I'm going to be quite a long way away and I'm just going to give it a gentle spritz because I just want the ink to lift a bit. I just want it to start. There you go. And it's better to do it in just little bits. And you can see, give it a bit of time. And can you see how it's just starting to lift just the tiniest bits of colour? And I don't mind if there's a couple of big blots, but I don't want to have whole areas wash out. Okay, so can you see what's happening there? It's just lifting the colour just a bit in a sort of a starry, crepey kind of pattern. And you can just give it a wee pat when you think it's done enough. And you can let it dry. or you can give it a bit of a zap if you're worried that it's wet, still wet, before you do the next step. And the next step is to take that little stamp there and to take some Whisper White ink, and we're just going to stamp on a few stars. So we're just going to go in there. I'm going to turn the stamp around so it's not completely uniform. And we're just going to make our little night sky. Now, the thing about the pigment, the white pigment ink I'm using, is that it does take just a little bit of time to dry. It's much slower drying than ordinary ink, so don't sort of pick it up and, you know, rub it, because you will get a mess out of that. Okay, so we're just going to check that over, see there's nothing else I want to add, and I think the answer to that is no. So I'm going to attach my hill. Oops. And when I do that, I'm going to just quickly turn it over, make sure I have got it on straight. What we're going to do next with that is, if you have a look at my original sample, you can see that I've overstamped and given sort of a little starry background to my sentiment. So we'll do that with this sentiment, which is Mountains of Thanks. I'm going to start with just a little bit of fresh freesia. So I'll just add in a little touch of yellow. Now, if you don't like the look of that, obviously you don't have to do that. It's just I quite liked bringing in some extra colour. So what I'll do next, though, is I will attach it to its mat, which is the Orchid Oasis mat. And we will pop that on there. We'll just wiggle it straight, or in this case, reposition it straight. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our hiker, and we're just going to pop her in there, give her a wee bit of glue, and we shall just lift that up just a touch so that her feet are hiding. Right, and now we will attach that to the card front. And I'm trying not to touch my pigment stars too much, because they haven't quite dried. And one thing, and if I hadn't been making a video, I probably would have left them before I did all the putting together. But of course, the nice thing is I can go, oh, perhaps I'll stick some more in now. Now I can see better where I'm going. I'm just going to just add in some more, and now I'm going to have to be extra careful not to touch that bit. The final thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop that. Now, if you like that look, you can just leave your sentiment like that. I felt I wanted to bring in a bit more colour, So that's why I die cut out some of these little pieces of foliage. And I'm just going to pop them under the one thing you do want to do though is to make sure you've got your sentiment on straight. And final embellishment, I'm going to pop on some of the In Colour Opal rounds. So I think Fresh Freesia is what I used, so we will have some Fresh Freesia bling. As you can see, getting very close to the end of this packet. And oh yeah, a third one. Perhaps we'll pop that one up there. Now for the inside, I'm just going to show you what I did on this one. As I said, I've got an Orchid Oasis matte, a piece of basic white, and those stamps are just some of these grass and mountain flower stamps out of the Greatest Journey, but obviously you can experiment and do what you like. So there we go. There is our Greatest Journey silhouette mountain with a starry night sky, and I hope you've enjoyed watching me make that, and I hope you're going to go and give that a go for yourself. You are more than welcome to contact me and ask questions. I'm always happy to answer them, and you can reach me through my Jan Clothier Independent Stampin' Up Demonstrator Facebook page or my blog, and the details of those are in the video description below and the end cards at the end of the video. And if you've seen anything that you've really enjoyed as a product, you're more than welcome to shop with me if you live in New Zealand, and there's a link to my online store below. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today and you haven't already subscribed to me, please do so you don't miss anything new that I do. And above all else, happy stamping.